In a quiet village on the edge of an ancient forest, the children whisper of the Shadow Man, a creature of legend that feeds on fear and drags the curious into eternal darkness. When 13-year-old Kwame, bold and skeptical, ventures into the forbidden woods to disprove the tales, he discovers that some stories are not just meant to scare, they're meant to warn. As the shadows twist and the whispers grow louder, Kwame realizes the truth too late. The Shadow Man is real, and it's waiting for him. Kwame's hands worked deftly, the small knife shaving wood with precision. His mind, however, wasn't entirely on his craft. While the other children were content to stay within the safety of the village, Kwame often found himself drawn to the forest's edge. It wasn't rebellion or defiance, just curiosity. The stories whispered by the elders about the Shadow Man didn't frighten him the way they did others. The Shadow Man, they said, was a creature of legend, or perhaps a curse. He was said to dwell deep in the forest, where the trees grew thick and the air was heavy with silence. Some said he was a man cursed for betraying his people, others that he was a spirit born of the forest's darkest secrets. He fed on fear, drawing his strength from the terror of his victims. Most of the children listened to the warnings, avoiding the forest entirely. But Kwame's uncle, who had once told him that curiosity was the mark of a clever mind, had vanished in those very woods a year ago. Kwame was determined to find the truth, no matter what. As the sun dipped lower, his best friend, Ayo, came running up the dirt path. Ayo was breathless, his face pale. "Kwame, you won't believe it," he exclaimed, his voice breaking. "Mama Fatima saw the Shadow Man last night, near the old well." Kwame glanced at him, raising an eyebrow. "The old well?" "Yes, she said his eyes were like fire, burning through the darkness. She barely made it back to the village." Ayo's voice trembled. "You can't keep saying it's just a story, Kwame. What if it's true?" Kwame chuckled, though it was forced. "Mama Fatima sees all kinds of things. Just last week she thought she saw a snake in her cooking pot, and it turned out to be a twig." Ayo grabbed Kwame's arm, his grip firm. "But people have disappeared. Your uncle, Kwame. He went into the forest and he never came back." Kwame's expression hardened. "That doesn't prove anything. Maybe he got lost. Maybe it was animals. I don't believe in shadows that eat people." Ayo's gaze searched his friend's face. "You should," he said quietly, his voice barely a whisper. Kwame hesitated at the tree line, his lantern casting a soft glow. The forest was a different place at night, darker, deeper, almost alive. But Kwame was stubborn. He had to prove there was no Shadow Man, for himself and for the others. The path to the old well was narrow, overgrown with roots and vines. His lantern flickered as he moved, the light painting distorted shapes on the forest floor. At first, the chirping of insects was comforting, a reminder of the life around him. But as he ventured deeper, the sounds began to fade. The silence was suffocating. Then, something strange happened. The shadows cast by his lantern seemed to shift. When he stopped, they didn't. They moved, subtle and slow, as if alive. Kwame turned abruptly, his breath hitching, but there was nothing, just the trees. "Just the wind," he whispered, though the air was eerily still. Kwame held his lantern high, peering into the well. The water below was dark, but ripples disturbed the surface as if something had moved. His skin prickled. Suddenly a sound broke the silence, a whisper, soft and almost melodic. "Kwame!" His blood ran cold. The voice seemed to come from everywhere at once, weaving through the trees. He gripped his lantern tighter, his knuckles white. "Who's there?" he called out, his voice trembling. The whisper came again, closer. "Kwame!" He spun around, the light trembling in his hands. For an instant he saw it, a figure standing among the trees. It was impossibly tall, its body shifting like smoke, and its eyes glowed a deep, menacing red. The sight paralyzed him. Panic seized him. He stumbled back, the lantern slipping from his grasp. It hit the ground, the glass shattering. Darkness engulfed him. The whisper grew into a low growl surrounding him. Kwame turned and ran, his feet pounding against the forest floor. The shadows seemed alive, reaching out with long, smoky tendrils. His breath came in ragged gasps, his chest burning. The elder's warnings filled his mind. The Shadow Man grows stronger with fear. "Leave me alone!" he screamed, his voice cracking. But the shadow pursued him, silent and relentless. Kwame could feel it, an oppressive weight, like the darkness itself was trying to consume him. But something is wrong. The village is empty. No laughter, no voices, no light. The huts stand silent, their doors ajar. He stumbles to his feet, calling out, "Ayo, Mama, anyone?" The only answer is silence. "Kwame!" He turned slowly, tears streaming down his face. The shadow man stood at the forest's edge, taller and darker than before. Its red eyes burned like embers, and its shadow stretched toward him, swallowing the ground between them. Kwame's scream pierced the air as the screen faded to black. The elders shake their heads, their faces grave. The shadow man takes those who do not believe, they say. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for new story and tales.